Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to part 18 of our WordPress for Beginners tutorial series. And today what we're going to do is we're going to have a little bit of continuation on setting up our server and everything, and then actually moving this site over. So where we left off last time was I just set up the Hostgator account and had changed our name servers to point to it. And so now that that's open, I wanted to show you what the front of the site actually looks like now that it's propagated. So if you see, this is that site that we bought for $1.50 or whatever on Namecheap. And right here, this is what the site looks like, because this is called a parked page. And a parked page is what happens when your website has nothing on it and you point it to a server. And it doesn't always do this. It depends. Like HostGator has their own default page that it will go to if you don't have anything in the site. And other servers, based on what you have, some don't do this. Like some of the more high-end servers, when you point a site and you have nothing on it, it will just do that index of showing your files and folders. Remember I showed that and how we use htaccess to close it. So this is a park page, and it would have been a Namecheap park page actually if we would have left it as their base DNS. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to change this to our WordPress site. And the way that we do that is in the back end of our dashboard here. Okay, so in the dashboard of our WordPress here, what we're actually going to do is we're going to start with the Duplicator plugin, and you find that down here after we installed Duplicator. It was one of our starting plugins, and I've used this for a long time, and it is an excellent plugin. So what you want to do is you want to go to Packages. Now, what this does is it actually takes all your website, your settings, your files, your folders, your images, everything you've done, and essentially just create an installable clone package. It's pretty awesome, and I'll show you. It's really easy to do. And in the very beginning of this series, I showed you how to create a database in a WordPress. a database and upload the WordPress and all that. Okay, the reason I did it manually was because of this step right here is where we're going to create a package and we're going to move it that same way. So all you do is hit Create New on the packages, and it's going to take you to this next screen. And the next screen is going to ask you for a name. Just go ahead and leave everything in here absolutely a default for our purposes. So now it's going to scan, and it's going to make sure your site's good and all your settings are good and all your files are good and that the package isn't going to be too big or anything like that. Okay, so it said the files are a little big. I'm not really too worried about it. Just gave us a notice, didn't give us a warning or anything. And so as you can see, here we are. It says basically everything's good to go. So we're going to say yes, I want to continue with the build. It's giving us this notice because of this file size check. And we're going to hit Build. And so what this is now going to do is it's going to create a buildable package for us, an installable package for us to migrate to a server and unpackage this site on somewhere else and have an exact duplicate cloned setup. This thing actually moves pretty quick. It usually takes a few minutes for it to package everything. Okay, and there it is. So now we have two files. We have an installer file and we have an archive file. And you can one-click download both of them or do them individually. So I'm just going to put these on the desktop. All right, so I put these on the desktop, and I made a new folder called Migrate. So if you look at my desktop here, I have just a new folder called Migrate. And in there, I put both these. You don't have to make this folder the same way. It's completely up to you. I just did it so I know which folder to go to when I'm going to upload to the server. You can name it whatever you want. But you have to make sure that you have the package as a zip file and that you have the installer.php file. So now we've created a clone of our site, and the way that we take it to the server is we go into that Hostgator panel. We actually log into our Cpanel for our Hostgator, and we're going to go down to File Manager. Now all Cpanels will have a file manager, and you want to go in here, and we have a public HTML file. Just similar to your XAMPP where you have an htdocs, and that's where all your stuff is accessible through the browser. A public HTML file is the file on a server where the public can actually get to the files in there. So if we went to this here, and we see like default HTML, that's probably what this is calling, is this right here. But if we go into here, and you see all this stuff, we don't need any of this stuff here. We can actually get rid of it all. I'm just going to get rid of these two right here actually by hitting delete. And then what we can do is we can click upload, and it's going to give us an upload screen. And from here, we're going to go ahead and go into that migrate file, and we're going to select the installer, and we're going to select the package, which is now going to start uploading. And you want to put them in the root, just the public HTML root, because that is just the belfortflowers.site. We haven't created any subdomains. I'm going to make a video as well on subdomains. You can install multiple WordPress standalone sites on one server or on one domain, believe it or not. They're using subdomains, and I'll talk about that later. But for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to upload this to our live server and get everything on there, and then I'll show you what it looks like next time we go into our public site. I'll show you how to get to the installer and where we can actually get the process of getting this moved to here where other people can actually visit it versus just us. So after this uploads, I'll get back with you and show you what the next step is. Alright, so it just got done uploading, and if we, you can either click go back or just close this once they're at 100, and it'll take you back to your file manager. And if you just go ahead and reload this, you're going to see that those are now in there. So we now have these up on our server, but this is just a zip package. It's not actually our site. Everything's inside of here, and we need to actually install it. So this is our physical front end. When we type in Belfort Flowers site, or .site, it accesses this public HTML folder inside of that, inside of our cPanel for this site. So if you look at the file structure, we now have a few files in here, and if we refresh this page, we might get that index of that I was telling you about, right? So now we have that index of because we have no htaccess protecting it or anything telling it not to, to redirect it or don't give given 403 restricted or anything. So what you're seeing right here is open access. Well, we now have a few folders in here or a few files we can go to. What you want to do is you want to go to the installer, and you can also just type /installer.php, and it's going to get you to here. And this is the Duplicator installer. Now, this is getting ready to deploy a cloned version of our localhost site to our live site. So everything in the first section of this, we're going to leave the same. We don't really want to update or upgrade anything. Setup, leave it the same. Validation, that's just validating everything is correct in your package. And then options is any extra options. We're not going to do any of this in our case because ours probably will never have an issue the way that I was showing you how to do it, as long as all your server requirements are met. So we're going to go ahead and just hit next, and it's going to extract that file archive for you. The zip file, it just extracted it onto our server. And you're going to get this screen. And this screen is where you need to set up a database and then have it validate in and move everything to the server. Or where it can clone your WordPress database. So let's go ahead and do a really quick database creation on the cPanel in our live server. So if you go up to the database, or this is the popular links, but each one has also a database section. It'd be right here. And you want to just go to MySQL databases. Okay, and now we're going to create a database and a user very similarly to how we did it on our phpmyadmin, but this is a web-based interface that all cPanels have. So for the new database, this is the database name. We're just going to name it something random, and I'm going to create that database. I'm going to save this to our text file. We're going to make a new text file here, and let's see. We need to now scroll down to users because we now have created that new database right here, but it has nothing in it. And now we need to create a user. So let's create a user. Okay, and for the password, I'm going to go ahead and give this user its password and not show that part necessarily. Okay, so I just created a very long password for this user. And this site, I'm going to end up changing this stuff anyway, probably, just since I'm showing it out publicly. Not that it even really matters. I don't expect anybody to mess with this site, but we're going to go ahead and create that user. So we want to put that username right here into a text file. I'm not going to put the password in here, but this is our database name, and this is our database password, our user. And you can make these more clear if you want. I always like to just totally randomize them. I mean, it's kind of more difficult to tell what's on your server, but if you only have one site on here or something like that, you don't really want to name it exactly what the site is for security reasons. And then down below, it wants you to add a user to that database. Well, we only have one user and we only have one database. So add that user in, and it's going to ask you for privileges. You want to go ahead and grant them all the privileges on this database and make those changes. And now we have a user set up that can access this live database on your server. So we go back to Duplicator, and it's going to go ahead and leave action as connect and remove all data to an existing database. The host, leave it as localhost because it's using the, this is a little bit confusing, but it's using the localhost that it's currently set on, okay, not your computer's localhost. Many servers refer to themselves as localhost because it's local to itself. So in this case, it's actually referring to the server it's on, which is the Hostgator server, by saying use the localhost. So don't worry too much about that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this information in. Our database here, our database user here, and our database password here. And so for validation, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click Test Database. And if you made everything correctly, you're going to get green checkboxes or green buttons that say Pass and Good. This means that it's properly linking up to our database and it's properly seeing the place where it can clone and install. So we're just going to go ahead and hit Next. And we're going to say yes because we are okay with it deleting any data in that database because there isn't any. So now it's going to install your WordPress database. And once again, guys, this video might be a little longer than 10 minutes because this is more of a pretty advanced topic as well. Okay, so we're going to leave everything else the same. Now here's something interesting is too. You could here, as an option, you can add a new admin account. This is if you forgot the one you created for your local host or if you want to create another one, you can do that right here. You can create a whole new username, email, password for your login for your back into your WordPress site. So if you needed to make one, here's one way you can do it. But I'm just going to hit Next because I have my password. I saved it to a text file, so I have my login still. It's the same exact login as you did for your local host. It's the same exact user and password. Okay, so everything went off without a hitch. And I think I'm going to end this video right here because we're already around maybe like 12 or 13 minutes. And in the next video, I'm going to continue on this. I'm going to, in video 19, I'm going to go ahead and continue on just showing you how to finalize all this because for security reasons, we're going to want to go ahead and delete all the installer files after we log in. And then we just want to do some checks on our site to make sure everything looks good and that it's exactly what we want. So that's going to wrap us up on 18. Hit the like, hit the subscribe if you would, and I appreciate comments. I look forward to responding and helping people if they have any issues with this or need any more tips or if they need any recommendations on this whole plugin and everything, which this is a pretty great plugin. Like I said, I've used it for a long time. So I will look forward to seeing you guys in video 19.